When a little girl asked, "Why is she sleeping here?" A millionaire dad's amazing transformation. Mark Evans stood at the edge of the lush green park, the crisp autumn air brushing against his tailored suit as the sun dipped low on the horizon. He looked every bit the millionaire, his perfect smile framed by light glinting off expensive cufflinks. But as laughter and chatter filled the air around him, there was a nagging emptiness gnawing at his chest. This week's charity event had become just another item on his to-do list, another opportunity to show off his success. Little did he know, it would soon turn into a turning point for his fractured family. His spirited daughter, Lily, with her wild curls and sparkling eyes, tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, why is she sleeping here?" Her tiny finger pointed at Alice, an elderly woman huddled under a worn-out blanket on a nearby bench. The innocence in her voice pierced through Mark's carefully constructed facade, like a knife slicing through silk. He felt his gut twist with a mixture of guilt and realization. In that moment, he was forced to reckon with the stark economic inequality lurking just beyond his manicured lawns. "Lily, it's complicated," he stammered, his heart heavy as he turned away from Alice. How could he explain? How could he teach compassion when he barely felt it himself? Mark took a deep breath, trying to steady the tumult inside him. He hated that a simple question from his daughter could spark such deep discomfort. And yet, the desire to show her the value of kindness surged within him. In a moment he would later come to regret, he invited Alice into their home. "You can stay with us for a bit," he announced, trying to sound confident. Lily's eyes gleamed with excitement, but his wife's brow furrowed as she processed the implications. Over dinner, Alice shared her story, her voice rich with emotion and history. The room was thick with unspoken truths, but for every laugh they shared, a seed of chaos was sown. Their neighbors were less than pleased. Whispers filled the air like a sudden gust of wind stirring leaves. "What's he thinking?" one said, eyeing Alice warily. Mark felt their judgment like a weight on his shoulders. Their opinion was the currency of his social standing, and suddenly it was at risk. Caught off guard, he toyed with the idea of flaunting his kindness, but as the tension in his household thickened, he saw that his well-meaning intentions were falling apart. Every smile and nod in the community felt laced with doubt. Just when he thought he was cornered, a late-night conversation with Alice peeled back layers he had built over years. Her warmth, despite the chill of her life on the streets, illuminated parts of Mark he thought dead. "Why do you try so hard to impress them?" Alice asked, her eyes piercing through the darkness. "What really matters to you?" She had no idea how her words rattled him, making him reconsider everything he had defined as success. In that moment, Mark glimpsed her dignity, not as a social cause but as a human being. The war inside him raged on. The pressure from the community mounted. Would he stand firm for what he believed, even if it meant risking his family's reputation? The question hung in the air, heavy and fraught. Could he redefine what success really meant before he lost everything he held dear? His heart raced as he pondered his next move. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The stakes were higher than ever. As Mark looked at his family, he realized he stood at a crossroads. Would he be the father and creator his daughter needed, or fold under the weight of community expectations? The answer seemed as elusive as the setting sun, but one thing was clear: the choices ahead would define not just his life, but the lives of those he loved. The next morning brought a chill that seemed to seep directly into Mark's bones. He awoke to the sun's hesitant rays peeking through the curtains, their warmth a stark contrast to the worry swirling in his mind. Alice was in the guest room, a fragile figure tucked under layers of cotton and old quilts. For a moment, he simply stared at her, reflections of his own life playing out in visions of privilege, success, and the cozy confines of his perfect home. Lily's laughter drummed through the house like sweet music, temporarily drowning out his doubts. He padded down the hallway, drawn by her innocent joy. In the kitchen, she was whipping up pancakes with a mountain of chocolate chips, Alice right beside her, directing with youthful exuberance. Their camaraderie filled the room and, for a fleeting moment, Mark felt a sense of peace settle in his heart. "Daddy, look! Alice taught me how to make the fluffiest pancakes," Lily exclaimed, her face beaming with pride. "That's amazing, sweetheart. But let us save some for Alice too," he replied, mustering a smile that barely masked his turmoil. As they sat around the breakfast table, the room buzzed with laughter, but the underlying tension was palpable. Mark's wife, Julie, sat stiffly, her fork clinking against her plate as she consumed her food with calculated precision. Each bite felt like an insurmountable wall rising between them. "Mark, can we talk?" she whispered after Alice stepped into the living room, leaving them alone for a moment. He nodded, steeling himself as they moved out of earshot. "What were you thinking?" Julie's voice was barely above a whisper, but her force was undeniable. "This isn't just a charity case, it's someone living with us. What about our reputation? What are the neighbors going to say?" He felt his chest tighten. "What if we looked beyond reputation for once? Do we want to be defined by what others think, or by who we are?" "Of course, but there's no but, Julie," he interrupted, frustration spilling over. "What I'm trying to teach Lily is real compassion. Isn't that what we want for her?" Mark's voice softened at the thought of his daughter's bright eyes. A flicker of understanding crossed Julie's face, but it was eclipsed by her worry. I worry about how this will affect us. Our lives aren't meant to be intertwined with people like her." Mark's stomach dropped at the thought that this was how his wife really saw Alice. Just a symbol of their class divide. After breakfast, Mark found himself drawn to Alice. Sitting in the sun on the back porch, she was reading, a real book with crinkled pages. As he approached, a smile broke across her weathered face. "Good morning, Mark," she greeted warmly. "Good morning, Alice. How are you feeling?" he responded, noticing a newfound connection was blossoming. "A little nervous. I'm not used to a safe place," she replied, the honesty of her words striking him anew that he took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her truth. "I'm glad you're here. I want you to feel safe, Alice. It matters to me." "Thank you," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're different from others I've met." Mark felt a warmth in his chest at her words. Maybe he was beginning to shed the layers of his old self. Maybe he could redefine who he was, but then a loud knock shuddered through the house. Mark froze momentarily, the sudden sound jolting him from his thoughts. Who could that be? He wondered aloud, anxiety knotting in his stomach. He turned toward the door, feeling the air thicken with tension. This was the moment. Would it be the community raising their voices against him? Or a chance to stand firm for what he believed in? With a deep breath, he made his way to the door, heart pounding, a storm brewing behind it. What awaited him could change everything. Mark steadied himself as he placed a hand on the doorknob. A rush of blood pulsed through his veins, matched only by the rapid thumping of his heart. He could sense that whatever lay beyond the door carried weight, potential backlash, harsh judgments, or perhaps even a lifeline for transformation. He opened the door to find a small group of neighbors standing at the threshold. Their expressions were a mix of curiosity and thinly veiled disapproval. Old Mrs. Thompson, her cane tightly grasped in one hand, peered up at him with piercing eyes. Beside her stood the Ramirez family, who exchanged awkward glances. "Mark," Mrs. Thompson began, her voice quivering slightly with age and authority. "Can we talk? About the woman living with you?" He gulped, the knot in his stomach tightening further. "Is this about Alice?" "It's about more than just her," Mr. Ramirez interjected, stepping forward, concern etched on his face. "You know, we're all worried. It doesn't seem right, having someone like that in your home. What will our kids think?" Mark's heart sank. He dreaded this moment, yet it was here, unfolding before him in all its discomfort. She's not someone like that. She needs our help. I thought we could show kindness. Mrs. Thompson crossed her arms tightly, her voice rising. You think kindness is enough? This is your family we're talking about. What's next? Adding more strangers? A weighty silence filled the air. Each neighbor wore their apprehension like an uncomfortable cloak, and Mark could feel the walls closing around him. Lily, come here. He called, hoping her light would break this tension. She came bounding down the hallway, her joy a stark contrast to the chill in the air. Daddy. Who are they? She asked, looking up at the group with wide eyes. The innocence in her gaze brought a momentary pause of reflection among the neighbors. Just friends, sweetheart, Mark said, forcing a smile. Can we invite them in? They're just like Alice, right? Lily asked, her childish logic slicing through the adults' anxious chatter. Alice is nice. She taught me pancakes. Mark's heart swelled with pride but quickly fell under the weight of reality. See? She's good for us. Lily was eager, her tiny fingers reaching for Alice, who stood just beyond the living room frame, her face a mixture of embarrassment and warmth, her presence both grounding and fragile. Mark's chest tightened again as he turned to face the gathering crowd. This isn't charity. This is humanity. And what we teach Lily here matters. Kindness is what we need now more than ever. The murmured exchanges from the neighbors became a murmuration, a wave of anxiety. Yet, there was something deeper in Mark's plea. A genuine connection intertwined with the challenge of defiance. Suddenly, Mrs. Thompson softened, her tight grip on her cane loosening slightly. But why? Why her? Why not? Can't we step outside the fancy boxes we've built? Alice deserves a chance, just like you and I. And it might teach our kids a lesson about acceptance, about compassion. He felt the weight of his words, even his own doubts began to lift, the air shifted. As they exchanged looks, an understanding flickered in their faces, though unspoken. All right, Mr. Ramirez said quietly, still uncertain but with a sense of grim resignation. We'll give it a try. But we'll be watching. With that, they retreated, their traditional views tinged with an inkling of possibility. Mark took a deep breath, relieved yet still walking a fine line. He rushed back inside to find Alice, who was now watching with a mixture of hope and fear. Did they hurt you? Alice asked softly, her voice trembling that he shook his head, his resolve crystal clear now. No, they just need time. Just like us. We can't change overnight. Lily piped up, can we still do the pancakes? Mark chuckled, his heart lifting with Lily's innocent enthusiasm. Absolutely. Suddenly, the laughter that filled the kitchen felt different. This was a step toward weaving their lives together, a leap into the unknown, yet, deep down, Mark knew the hardest part was yet to come. He sensed there would be more challenges ahead, more conversations forced into the light. As they gathered around the kitchen table, the scent of fresh pancakes curling through the air, his phone buzzed to life on the counter, an unexpected message from Julie that made his heart skip a beat. Mark, we need to talk, now. With that, Mark's stomach turned as he wondered what Julie had to say. Could it shatter the fragile peace they had begun to build? The tone was set for another storm. What now awaited him was a decision that would either unite them or drive them further apart. Mark stared at his phone, his heart pounding like a drum in a marching band. Julie's message felt like a warning shot, a storm brewing on the horizon just as they were beginning to find some calm. Daddy, is everything okay? Lily asked, her innocent voice breaking through his swirling thoughts. He quickly forced a smile, though it felt like a mask slipping over a deep anxiety. Of course, pumpkin. Just a little, adult stuff, you know? He ruffled her hair, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Alice stood off to the side, her gaze soft yet searching, as if she could hear the unspoken weight in the air. Mark, maybe you should respond, she suggested quietly, her eyes reflecting the concern she felt. He nodded, a sharp intake of breath. I will, in a second. Dropping his phone on the table, he turned to Lily, whose face lit up with excitement. "How about we finish making those pancakes? Then we can put on a little music." "Yeah." Lily clapped her hands, her giggles echoing off the walls, a sweet melody slicing through the tension. As they took over the kitchen, Mark focused on the sizzle of the batter on the hot griddle, the smell intoxicating. Flipping the pancakes, he caught Alice watching him, her eyes wide, full of emotion he couldn't fully decipher. She knew this was more than breakfast, it was a celebration of survival, a moment to foster goodwill. "Do you want to help, Alice?" he finally asked, and she hesitated, eyes flicking to the floor before she stepped closer. "Sure, I can help," Alice said softly. As she joined in, an unspoken bond began to form between them, the anxiety that had lingered now slowly turning to camaraderie. Just as they spread syrup over fluffy pancakes, the unintended sound of the doorbell rang through the house. Mark's heart raced again. "I'll get it," he said, wiping his hands on a towel, hoping it wasn't more neighbors. He opened the door, revealing Julie, her expression more serious than he remembered. The shadow of nervousness flitted across her face as she scanned the room behind him. "Can we talk?" she said, her voice steady but quiet. "Sure. Just give me a second," he replied. As he turned back into the house, the warmth and laughter receded momentarily, replaced by the chill he felt in the air whenever he thought about facing her again. "Lily, sweetheart, can you help Alice with the pancakes for a moment?" he asked, motioning towards the kitchen. "Okay, Daddy." Lily chirped, her enthusiasm bubbling, but it was hard for Mark to feel it, knowing the weight of the moment hanging on him. As he stepped outside with Julie, he could see the tension in her jaw. "Mark, I've had time to think," she began, her eyes searching his for answers. "About everything." "Julie," she cut him off, her voice rising slightly. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about Alice. This is about us. About your life and the choices we've made." Mark clenched his jaw. "I thought you'd understand. This isn't just a whim for me. I'm trying to do something right. And you think taking in a stranger is the right way?" Her words were sharp, but beneath that was an undercurrent of fear that tugged at Mark's heart. What if this backfires? What if it affects Lily? The familiar tightness returned in his chest. Was he really putting too much at stake? Or was it time to push against the narrow boundaries of their world? "Maybe it's time we reevaluate what normal really means," he replied, frustration simmering under the surface. Julie's eyes softened slightly, but a flicker of doubt remained. "And what about me? What about us?" Mark felt the pull of the conflict. He was caught between a new path illuminated before him and the old life still clinging like vines that grew too tightly around his heart. He wanted so desperately to make her see the world he saw. As his eyes lingered on her, a mix of longing and uncertainty washed over him. Just then, Lily's laughter floated through the open kitchen window, a pure sound filled with joy, hope, and innocence. The laughter mingled with tension, creating a choice he knew he had to make. "Lily believes in this, and I need you to understand why," he finally said, his voice firm yet laced with emotion. Just as Julie opened her mouth, prepared to respond, the sound of breaking glass shattered the moment. The clatter echoed through the neighborhood. A different kind of storm was approaching. What was that? Mark's heart dropped. "Mark." Julie's eyes widened, panic flaring across her features. He turned, urgency coursing through him, knowing that the peace they had built was teetering on the edge once more. What chaos awaited them now? As he dashed back into the house, dread coiled tightly around him, ready to confront whatever came next. Mark burst through the door, the sound of laughter dissipating into a heavy silence. His heart raced as he scanned the kitchen, searching for the source of the broken glass. Lily stood frozen, her wide eyes fixed on the floor where shards glittered like fallen stars, each a reminder of the sudden shift in their seemingly perfect moment. Alice knelt nearby, her hands hovering uncertainly above the mess. "Uh-oh," Lily whispered, the innocence of her voice cracking the tension in the room. "Stay back, sweetie," Mark urged, crouching down next to Alice. "Let me handle this." He felt the all-too-familiar knot tightening in his stomach, wrestling with the need to protect what they had. How could such a simple, joyful morning spiral into chaos so fast? Mark gathered the larger pieces carefully, his hands steady despite the rush of panic. He forced a smile at Lily, hoping to reassure her that everything would be okay. "Just a little accident. We'll fix it in no time." He glanced at Alice, who nodded, mirroring his determination. "Here, I can help." Alice picked up a dishcloth, her voice steady now. They worked together in silence, shards clinking as they collected them into a bowl. Outside, Julie's presence loomed silently at the threshold, her eyes darting between Mark and Alice, weighing the moment. Mark sensed her hesitation and the unvoiced questions pressing on them. "Can you take Lily out of the kitchen for a minute?" He called to Julie, wanting to shield their daughter from the tension. Julie blinked, then stepped in, scooping Lily up into her arms. "Come on, honey. Let us check on those pancakes." As they exited, Mark caught the trace of worry on his ex-wife's face, a dance between anger and fear. What was this doing to them? He turned back to Alice, who was now carefully placing the glass pieces into the bowl. "Thanks for helping," he said quietly. "No problem," she replied, but her smile was tentative as if she felt the weight of the moment pressing down. "Do you think this is too much?" he asked, the question slipping out before he could catch it. He had thought they were building a new life, but now every little thing felt like a misstep. Alice paused, glancing at the bowl of broken glass before meeting his gaze. "Life is messy," she said softly. "But it's how we deal with the mess that matters." He took a deep breath, her words sending a small pulse of hope through him. "You're right. I just want things to work out." "Me too," she said, and for a moment, they shared a quiet understanding amidst the chaos. Just then, the sharp ring of Mark's phone broke through again, vibrating against the counter. He hesitated but reached for it, dread filling the space between them. The screen blinked, a message lighting up from an unknown number. A knot twisted in his stomach. With shaky fingers, he opened the message, and the words rushed out like a torrent. "If you think this is challenging, wait until you see what I have planned next." His heart sank as fear twisted through him. What did that mean? Anger and anxiety gripped him tight. "What is it?" Alice asked, noticing his sudden pallor. "Nothing, just another text," he lied, but the weight of it bore heavily on his mind. How could their lives spiral into more unpredictability? His gaze shifted to the laughter ringing from the kitchen, where Lily and Julie continued their pancake mission. In that moment, a determination surged through him. He had to protect his family, whatever that meant. "What do I even tell Lily?" he wondered aloud, more to himself than anyone else. "What if we found a way to show her that change isn't scary?" Alice offered, her voice resolute yet gentle. Mark thought of how much he wanted to shield her from confusion, from danger. But perhaps, he realized, there was a lesson in the messiness of life itself. "We could start by talking about it, together," he murmured, realizing that sheltering Lily might not be the answer. Just as he began to contemplate how to approach the truth, the front door creaked open again, this time with a breath of cold reality. "Mark." A voice boomed from the hallway, breaking the fragile moment. He turned, and dread pooled at the pit of his stomach. His brother stood awkwardly in the doorway, eyes wide with concern and something else he couldn't place. "What now?" Mark whispered to himself, the day's challenges piling high. As he faced his brother, he understood that life was a swirl of unexpected events. One more shock might just tip the balance. What had he stepped into? Mark's heart hammered in his chest as he straightened, confronting his brother Rick's anxious stare. He felt the weight of his all-too-familiar world pressing down on him, each problem stacking higher and higher like the unwashed dishes in the sink. "Hey, Mark," Rick said, his voice unsteady. "I didn't mean to barge in like this, but can we talk?" The tension in Mark's shoulders tightened further. "Now? In the middle of all this?" He gestured towards the remnants of the shattered glass on the counter, the evidence of their chaos lingering like an unwelcome guest. "Yeah, I know it's a bad time," Rick said, glancing around the kitchen filled with a mixture of timid laughter and all too intense silence. But it's important. Mark's instincts urged him to shove aside the unfolding drama, to demand that Rick come back later, but something in his brother's eyes stopped him. Maybe it was the urgency or the vulnerability hidden behind his bravado. Whatever it was, it granted Rick an unexpected authority in that moment. "All right," Mark relented, his voice softer now. "What is going on? Can we step outside? Away from everything?" Rick glanced toward the hallway where Julie and Lily were busy, oblivious to the turmoil brewing between the brothers. With a weary nod, Mark led the way to the backyard. The short walk felt endless, tension crackling in the air like the chill that hung around them. Once outside, he turned to face Rick, who rubbed the back of his neck, clearly grappling with whatever news he was about to share. "Dad called," Rick blurted out, his tone heavy with implications. Mark's breath caught. His father had been a volatile force in their lives, a man whose approval was like an elusive ghost. "What did he want?" Mark asked, trying to sound calm, though a storm was brewing inside. "He wants to see us together. He's back in town." The implications of those words staggered Mark. He could see the tension in Rick's shoulders mirror his own. Their father was known for his ability to mix charm with cruelty, a skill that had left them both scarred and hesitant. "Why now?" Mark asked, voice low. "Why not just leave it alone?" "I don't know," Rick admitted, looking genuinely pained. "But I think it might be time to confront him. You know, for us to figure out whatever this is he's been doing." Mark stared at the vibrant sky, the approaching clouds telling tales of storms yet to come. "Confrontation? Are you kidding? He's not going to change." "Maybe," Rick replied, the determination in his voice dissolving into uncertainty. "But what if he has? What if this time we get answers? Closure?" Mark shook his head, the weight of generational baggage threatening to crush him. He had been working so hard to build something good, a life with Alice and Lily, something his father's shadow had haunted for too long. "I don't know if I can face him, Rick. Not when things are already so messy." "Then what do we do? Just pretend nothing's happening?" In that moment, the laughter behind them blended with the muffled anxiety swirling in his mind. Mark thought of Lily, her innocence and hope. "We can't let him mess with our lives again," he said finally. "But what if we turned this into a lesson for her instead? About facing fears together?" Rick nodded slowly, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "I think you're right. Maybe it's time to teach her that confronting the past can be a part of moving forward." Heart pounding, Mark met his brother's gaze. "If we do this, we have to be ready for anything." "Together," Rick confirmed. But even as they spoke, a sharp unease settled in Mark's stomach. Would confronting their father really bring the closure they both sought? Was it worth the risk? Just then, a cheerful Lily's voice called out from the door, "Daddy, are you coming back inside? Pancakes are done." Mark hesitated, torn between the pressing uncertainties of his own life and the need to shield Lily from the complexities yet to come. He shared a look with Rick, a silent agreement passing between them. As he stepped back towards the door, the undercurrent of dread that lingered in the pit of his stomach deepened. The phone buzzed again in his pocket, a reminder that the world around him was anything but predictable. And even as joy filled the air, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing in his life, in his family, and in the confrontation that loomed ahead. "Let us figure this out, brother," he whispered under his breath, taking a deep breath, still unsure of where this path would lead him. How would they protect their love while facing the ghosts of the past? Mark pushed the door open, and the sweet smell of pancakes wrapped around him like a warm hug. Lily's laughter floated through the air, breaking the tension that had hung between him and Rick moments ago. Every time he heard her voice, it reminded him of what truly mattered: her innocence, her future. Forcing a smile, he stepped into the kitchen, where Julie stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with a practiced hand. "You guys took a while. I thought you were plotting world domination out there," she teased, glancing at Rick with a playful grin. "Close." Mark shot back, his heart still racing from their conversation, but her lightness was a balm. Lily bounced over, her eyes shining with excitement. Daddy. I helped make the special syrup. Wanna try? Of course, sweet pea, Mark replied, kneeling to her level. He wasn't ready to share his worries with her, not now. Instead, he wanted to focus on this perfect moment, a Saturday morning filled with laughter, pancakes, and syrup, not the looming specter of their father. As he settled at the table, Rick joined them, the tension from outside seemingly melting away in the warmth of family. They had promised one another to face their past, yet every bite of pancake served as a reminder of all the things they were trying to protect, especially from their father's shadow. Are we going to the park later? Lily asked, her face lighting up. Absolutely. Julie replied, ruffling Lily's hair. After breakfast, we'll get ready. That's a deal? Deal. Lily shouted, her joy contagious. Mark watched her and felt a flicker of hope. If they could weave their way through whatever came next, even for her sake, maybe it would be worth it. He caught the fleeting glance between Rick and himself, the silent acknowledgement that they were in this together, but just then, the phone vibrated again. He glanced at the screen. It was an unsaved number. A knot twisted in his stomach. Moments like this felt uncomfortably weighted, like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. Everything okay? Julie asked, catching his eye. Mark hesitated. Yeah, just a reminder about that meeting. You sure? You look a little pale, she prodded, concern lining her brow. It's nothing, he assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. As the table filled with food and laughter, Mark suddenly felt like the walls were closing in. The truth hung in the air like a thick fog, and he could almost hear the ghostly echoes of his father's voice. Once breakfast was over, he was determined to loosen the tension. Let us make today fun, huh? Who's up for a surprise at the park? The kids cheered, and even Julie smiled, relieved by his shift in energy. But behind that smile was a gnawing anxiety. Rick, Mark said quietly, as they cleared the table, we have to talk about the plan. Whatever we decide to do with Dad, I want to get it right. I can't put Lily in harm's way. Rick nodded, understanding the unspoken without hesitation. Yeah, I know. But we really need to make sure this stays about us, about what we need. His voice was steady, but the hint of fear lingered beneath the surface. Mark recalled the scenario from last night, the thought of his father in the same room, his insufferable charm rubbing against the scars of their past. How could they shield their daughter from that infectious toxicity? Can you promise me, Mark said, urgency threading his tone, if things get messy, or if he tries to manipulate, we pull the plug? Rick placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Always, brother. We're in this together. At that moment, Mark heard Lily's laughter filter through the house again, and another piece of his heart softened. The world outside was complicated, but within these walls, he had built something beautiful. Suddenly, a scream of excitement caught their attention. Look! The birds are flying. Lily pointed out the window, eyes wide with wonder. Rick and Mark exchanged glances, both of them reminded of how fragile this happiness was. Behind that window was a world filled with possibilities, wonder, pain, and the ghosts they needed to confront. Let's make today about us, our family, Mark declared, a sense of urgency rekindling his spirit, but as they turned back to the table, the air shifted slightly. The phone buzzed once more. It didn't take long before both brothers realized, deep down, they were just moments away from the confrontation that would challenge everything they built. Everything was leading up to one moment, the moment that would change their family forever. Would they rise above it or fall victim to the past? As Mark's heart raced again, the uncertainty rapidly settled in. How deep were the scars, and what choices awaited them in the waning light of that day? The park was alive with color. Children ran wild, laughter filling the air with a melody of joy that seemed to cut through Mark's swirling thoughts. As they arrived, the sun shone brightly overhead, casting warm rays on the patchy grass. He could see Lily darting toward the swings, her excitement an infectious spark igniting something deep within him. He wanted to stay in this moment forever. Julie took a seat on a nearby bench, her book in hand, glancing up occasionally to check on their daughter. Mark settled beside Rick near the sandbox, both of them watching Lily as she began to dig without abandon. "Look at her," Rick said, a proud smile spreading across his face. "She has no idea what's coming." "I know," Mark replied, a lump forming in his throat. "I wish we could keep her in this moment forever." But even as he said it, the unsaved number lingered in the back of his mind like a storm cloud threatening to drown out the sunshine. How could he shield his daughter from the fallout that was sure to come? Lily's giggle broke through his spiraling thoughts as she called out to them. "Daddy! Uncle Rick! Come help! I'm building a castle." They rushed over, their shared laughter adding layers of warmth to the chilly reality Mark felt looming just beyond the park's borders. He snapped back to the present, grabbing a handful of sand and sculpting it in the shape of a turret. Each grain felt grounding, a tiny piece of peace against the unease swirling inside him. Yet the weight of the facade they were all living under pressed heavily on Mark. How could he protect his daughter from the darkness that was their father? The thought of her ever having to face that man made his stomach churn. "Hey," Rick interrupted his thoughts, nudging him lightly. "We need to talk." Mark's heart sank. "You too? Is it about Dad?" "Yeah," Rick sighed, tossing a small stick into the sand. "I don't want to ruin today. But we can't avoid it forever." "No, but maybe we can enjoy this for just a little longer?" Mark asked, his urgency rising. "We planned this day for her. Let her be a kid." "I'm not saying we just need a plan. We need to establish some boundaries, just in case." Mark nodded, a frown creasing his brow. "You're right." Lily's small voice danced into the conversation again, her laughter bubbling up as she exclaimed, "Look! I made the door." She pointed proudly at what looked like a lopsided, sandy creation with shells adorning it. Mark's heart swelled. In that moment, with the sun warming his face and the sounds of happiness all around, he longed to reach into her innocence and wrap it up in soft, protective layers. He didn't want her to ever feel the harsh reality they were all grappling with. "It's amazing, sweet pea," he cheered, earning a huge grin from her. Rick watched the interaction, but Mark could see the worry pooling in his brother's eyes. They both knew the time was running out. The call, the confrontation, it would happen soon. And they needed to be ready. "Maybe it doesn't have to be as bad as we think," Mark said, trying to convince himself. "Maybe we'll just tell him off or maybe it could go sideways fast. We need to prepare for everything. If he says something that hurt her," Rick replied, his voice trailing off, the unspoken fear hanging in the air like a thick fog. Silence settled as they both glanced back at Lily, who was now busy decorating her castle with more shells and twigs. "Promise me," Mark said, urgency filling his voice again. "If today goes south, if he says something, anything that puts her in danger no matter what, we walk away. We pull her out." "Got it," Rick replied, stiffening with resolve. Just then, the phone buzzed again. This time, a name flashed across the screen, one neither of them wanted to see. Mark's heart sank. The moment had arrived. Would they survive the storm together? Would their family stand firm against the chaos that awaited them? As they turned to each other, a shared determination shone in their eyes. The time for escape was over. Now, they had to confront their father and find out if the strength of their bond could withstand the darkest parts of their past. Taking a deep breath, Mark turned back to watch Lily. If they were going to face what was next, it was for her future, and the chance to maintain that spark of joy. But as the buzzing faded, dread settled in. What if today was the day everything changed? As the sun ascended higher in the sky, casting a golden glow over the park, Mark took a deep breath, refocusing on Lily's radiant grin. She was fully engrossed in her creation, oblivious to the storm about to lash out from the shadows of their family history. Just a few more minutes, he thought. He couldn't help but steal glances at Rick, who seemed just as tense. Mark's thumb brushed the phone resting in his pocket, the pulsing reminder of reality sparking worry in him. "Okay, castle builder," Rick called, lifting his hands in the air. "How about we take a break and grab some ice cream?" Lily's eyes lit up, her pure joy piercing through the air. Yay! Ice cream! She squealed, her tiny hands clapping excitedly. As they made their way toward the park's small ice cream stand, Mark's mind was still tangled in ominous thoughts. Could they dodge the impending confrontation, or would they have to wield their newfound commitment to protect Lily? He constantly swallowed the knot of dread sitting heavily in his stomach. Mark glanced at Julie, who looked up from her book now, sensing the change in energy around them. "Everything okay?" she asked, her brows slightly arched, filled with concern that mirrored their own. "We're just thinking about what happens next." She nodded, understanding without needing to pry further. Julie's love for their daughter was a deep river, one that wanted to shield Lily from every shadow. Mark admired her strength, her unwavering belief that they could still be a safe harbor. Lily finished her ice cream, the bright colors of the scoop stark against the drizzle of chocolate on top. With sticky fingers, she raised her hand, as if she were conducting an orchestra that only she could hear. "Look at me, Mommy, Daddy. I'm a magician," she declared, twirling on the picnic table. Mark and Julie exchanged a quick smile, and for a brief moment, everything felt all right. But soon, Rick's phone buzzed, breaking the light-hearted atmosphere like a crack of thunder. He pulled it out, his face paling at the message. "It's him. Dad." The world felt as if it had come to a grinding halt. Mark's heart hammered in his chest. Questions swirled through his mind like a pendulum, swinging between anger and fear. Would this encounter drown out the sweet laughter they had just been enjoying? His grip on his daughter tightened instinctively, protection instinctively kicking in. "Let us go, we should go," whispered Rick, a hint of panic in his eyes. It was clear that the calm before the storm was shattering, and they had little time. "Just wait, let us not rush this," Mark urged, trying to remain grounded. He watched as Lily spun, lost in innocent magic. "Can't we just breathe for a moment? Please?" But how could they breathe when a call awaited that could reshape everything? It was as if a shadow marched ever closer, ready to leave a mark on their beautiful day. "Lily," Mark called, moving to her side. "Let's keep building your castle for a bit longer, shall we?" "Yeah." She grinned, diving back into her sandy world with unabashed excitement, and as he knelt beside her, pouring more sand into a new turret, Mark felt resolve. They could handle whatever was thrown their way. Together. But in the back of his mind, he knew that faces could change, words could hurt, and promises sometimes felt like fragile glass. "Hey, earlier I told you I'd protect you, right?" he whispered, hoping to convey every ounce of love in his heart. Then, Lily looked up at him with wide eyes, a safety net of wonder. "But, Daddy, what if she wakes up?" The question hung heavy in the air like a lead balloon. Mark felt an icy grip around his chest. "Then we'll just have to be ready, won't we?" He met Rick's gaze again, a silent agreement forming between the two brothers. Whatever storm loomed on the horizon, it would not break them. "Wait, Daddy!" Lily suddenly exclaimed, pointing to a family of ducks waddling by. "Can we help them too?" But as Mark watched the innocent joy play across her face, he wondered if it was asking too much to help everyone they loved at once. The inevitable confrontation was drawing nigh. Would they truly be ready for the swell of memories, the dark past surfacing with a vengeance? And in that moment, Mark pondered, would they manage to defend the happiness that felt so fragile? Or would they lose sight of the light in Lily's eyes? Mark's heart beat wildly as he knelt beside Lily. The warmth of the sun warmed his skin, contrasting starkly with the chilled thoughts racing through his mind. Time seemed to fold in on itself, the worry looming over him felt stronger than a storm. But looking at Lily, her laughter lighting up the world around them, anchored him a beacon of hope amidst the gathering shadows. As they molded the sand, Mark caught Rick's eye. There was understanding there, the weight of their familial bond lifting him, giving him strength. "Whatever happens with Dad," Rick whispered, "we've got this. Together." Mark nodded, his resolve strengthening. This was not just about protecting Lily, it was also about creating a new legacy, one free of their father's shadow. "You're right. We'll handle whatever comes next, but we'll do it as a family. For her." Lily tilted her head, eyes sparkling. "Daddy, what about the ducks?" she chirped again, tugging on his arm. "Can we help them?" "Of course, sweetheart. Helping is what it's all about, isn't it?" Mark replied, and though they were only talking about ducks, he realized the deeper truth behind her innocent question. As they gathered their things, Mark glanced back at Julie, who stood with a soft smile, reminiscent of a summer day. He felt a flood of warmth, affirming his commitment to the family he was building with her and Lily. No matter what chaos their father brought, they would stand strong. "Let us go see those ducks, then," he said cheerfully, pulling Lily into his arms as they made their way across the grassy patch. The world felt vivid. The laughter echoed as they approached the pond littered with waddling birds. But as they stepped closer, Mark's phone buzzed again, another message from the unsaved number. His heart sank. He felt as if it were a noose tightening around him. "Just a minute," he said quickly to Rick, stepping away to check it. The message was blunt and simple: "Meet me now." The world swirled as anxiety gripped him. "Mark?" Julie's voice pierced through the static of dread in his mind, concern painting her features. It's nothing," he replied too quickly. As he turned back, Lily squealed in delight as she tossed bread crumbs to the waiting ducks. "Look, Daddy. They're coming." Mark felt a flicker of hope ignite inside him, reminded that life had a way of moving forward, even amidst the chaos. Everything could change in a moment. Their family and happiness hung in a delicate balance, but one thing had changed within him: courage. He turned back to Rick. "We need to move on, brother. If we're going to deal with Dad, let us do it on our terms." Rick nodded, a fierce determination flashing in his eyes. As they approached their family, Mark gathered them close. "All right, everyone, we have some things to discuss, but I want you to remember one thing: we're in this together." Lily clapped her hands. She didn't fully understand yet, but the spirit of unity radiated from her. Mark turned to Julie, her eyebrows slightly raised, but he saw the fear in her eyes begin to soften. "We can do this, for her," he promised, knowing the very fabric of their family relied heavily on each other's strength. At that moment, the sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over them, the iridescent hue illuminating the chaos of the morning. They moved forward together, hand in hand, hearts intertwined, ready to face the storm about to crash upon them. There was power in their bond, the essence of family, and together, they would carve a path through whatever darkness lay ahead. As they walked toward the park exit, Lily babbled cheerily about the ducks' antics, while Mark made plans to reach out to his father, not with fear but with resilience. "I want to teach her about kindness and strength," Mark thought, determination flowing through him. Life wasn't about avoiding the storms, it was about learning to dance in the rain, embracing every bit of growth, the messy, joyful, painful parts. That's when Mark swore to himself: no more running from the past, it's time to battle it head on. With that thought, they stepped into the sunlight, ready for everything to come, their family steadfast and their hearts full. This chapter of their lives wasn't just an ending, it was a new beginning, a new definition of what it meant to be a family, anchored in love, resilience, and unwavering support. And you know what? This is the moment you need to make a choice too. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help other fans find this journey. Share your thoughts and feelings about this ending in the comments below. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together. Let us make a change right now.